Welcome to this Mathcast. In this episode, we're going to be looking at determining payoffs based on odds. Now, normally when you're looking at something involving a payoff, it's usually in a betting circumstance, and that's kind of how we're going to approach this. If you're looking at thinking about betting odds are almost always quoted as being odds against. So if you look at the previous video, you should be familiar with how to calculate the odds against a certain event. I want to set this up to you as sort of a two-column example here. So let me go ahead and put in a dividing line here. And in this column over here, I'm going to suppose that we are told that something is paying off at 4-to-1 odds. Now this is in betting situation, so it's odds against. And in the column right next to it, I want to look at something that's paying off at 1-to-4 odds. If you start with the 4-to-1 odds, what this means is that you would lose 4 times for every 1 time that you would win. It also means that the bettor would stand to make $4 on every $1 that he bets. We usually call the amount that they're betting the stake. So if you're thinking about betting odds, then you need to know kind of how that translates into wins and losses. It's almost the opposite for 1-to-4 odds. 1-to-4 odds, the person's actually favored because you would only lose 1 time for every 4 times you won. This is sometimes called the odds-on favorite. So if you've ever heard those terms before, that just means that the number in front is smaller than the number going second, meaning that there's less a chance of you losing than there is winning. You're more likely to win. And here, the bettor stands to make only $1 on a $4 stake. Now remember, in terms of probabilities, the probability that this event occurs is 1 out of 5, the event here being win. The probability of you winning is 1 out of 5, whereas here the probability of a win is 4 out of 5. So that's sort of a compare and contrast here for sort of how odds work in a betting situation. Let's look at a simple example here. Suppose that you have a horse. So, typically these are horse racing applications or something like that. A horse is paying off at 5-to-3 odds. What I want to know is, what is the payoff on a $90 bet? Okay, well, let's see if we can translate this. 5-to-3 odds means for every 5 times they lose, they'll win 3 times. Now, I'm thinking of it this way. I get $5 profit, or $5 gained, for every $3 bet. That's literally what 5 to 3 odds means in this case. Now, I know that I have a $90 bet instead. So I look at it from this perspective. The odds tell me things in terms of ratios 5 to 3, but if I'm talking about 90, then that is 30 times more than what the odds are listing, which means that the profit would also need to be 30 times more. And if that is in fact the case, then the resulting profit would be 30 times 5, or 150. Now, if you're wanting sort of a foolproof way to do this time and time again, it really comes down to setting up a proportion. If you set up a proportion, the proportion here is 5 is to 3 as X is to 90. Where on this side it's $5 profit for $3 bet compared to X dollars of profit for a $90 bet. And if you solve, remember you want to cross multiply here and then set equal. 5 times 90 is 450, and that equals 3 times X. So that gives me X is equal to, divide through by that, divide through by the 3, and you'll get that X is 150, the same as what we got above. So we anticipate there being a $150 profit in this case. Now, I do want to explain just a slight little nuance here, and that is the difference between actual odds versus what are called betting odds. Actual odds are meant to describe what you think will actually occur, what will actually happen. This is more in line with our study of probability. However, oftentimes if you're betting on something, you're not betting on the actual odds, because if you knew the actual odds, then both sides would win an equal amount of the time. Therefore, oftentimes betting odds are skewed in favor of the house. They're skewed so that the house will not lose too much, essentially, is how to look at it. And so that over the long term, they'll win more than they'll lose. So it really is sort of a one-sided thing. Anytime that gambling's involved, the house always has the better odds. That's just how these things are done, because otherwise they'd be out a lot of money. I hope this makes a little better sense in terms of how to calculate payoffs, especially involving odds. This odds language is a little bit different to a lot of you, and so I'm just trying to develop a certain amount of comfort with what it is you're looking at when you look at odds. Thank you for watching this podcast.